This is Silph Radio, a Pokemon-centered podcast. I'm Nathan K, and today joining me is, for the first time in a good amount of episodes, a brand new guest host for you. I've been trying to cut down these intros and not waste like 7 minutes introducing people anymore. It grows weary on my vocal cords. So please welcome my really, really great friend, Lydia A.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here. This is something that I've been looking forward to do for some time.
That's so funny to me, too, because we've been friends for 5 years now. I can't believe it's been that fucking long, either. And I had no idea that you ever liked Pokemon at all in all these years of friendship.
Yeah, actually, Pokemon has been a very large part of my childhood. I grew up playing the games. I had the Blue first. My uncle was really into it. My uncle is like an awesome Disney guy. He likes all types of different stuff, but mostly children's cartoons.
Okay.
And Pokemon was one of them. So he got me into it. He even collected, do you remember the McDonald's toys? Like, they're not even toys. They were like the collector medallion coins.
The Burger King, they were the cards, the gold-plated cards. They're from Burger King.
They were
in a giant Pokeball.
Exactly.
Yep. I have a couple. I have two of them, I think.
Yeah. So he made a valiant effort to get all of those.
It's interesting though, because McDonald's owns the licensing now. Like now, McDonald's is the one releasing Pokemon toys, but back in the day, it was Burger King. Yeah, I don't know. So it was was that the first place you heard of Pokemon then? Was from your uncle?
Yes, my uncle got me into it. You know, he bought me the games, and then I got more into it, watched all the cartoons, and then recently I rewatched it again on Netflix. The Indigo League is on Netflix, which is awesome. So that's the one that I really bonded with as a child.
Yeah, those are the ones that I watched as well. So did you have the game before you watched the show, or vice versa, or?
They were pretty much at the same time. Like, I don't know. I don't know which came first, but they were both introduced to me. My childhood was a blur.
But how old were you?
I got to be between 6 and 10.
Okay. That's a pretty big gap.
It is.
Okay.
A blur. Real blur.
Did you have a favorite Pokemon? Or do you? Currently?
I really like water Pokemon. My Blastoise was really awesome, but I also had a dope Butterfree, but Butterfree just ended up not being as strong as I needed it to be, and my Blastoise just had that power that really satisfied me. So
I loved Butterfree. Was one of my favorites too when I was younger, especially, and one of my favorites to draw back when I drew a lot. Butterfree's fun to draw.
Yes. I saw the episode recently of Butterfree mating.
The Bye Bye Butterfree, the saddest episode ever, even
so
sadder
sad.
than the Pikachu's goodbye.
Right. And I just thought that was so fun, and I definitely like the character of Butterfree and the development of it as, personality. It's fun.
Yeah, and the show actually taking risks, and I don't know if it's taking risks, but Ash's first Pokemon, and then they leave for good. You don't see that character again for hundreds of episodes or something.
Right, and that's that's atypical, and of all the things you're gonna do, but also I think to a relationship, to a female, or I guess the way they portrayed it was female.
Well, it was pink, so obviously it's female.
Right.
Something we'll be talking about later in this episode.
Segue. So I definitely think it's the hoes before bros this time, unfortunately. Yeah, so I love the Butterfree character because I like the cartoon and the personality it's gotten. It's really sweet. It's really, fun, but it just didn't have that dope power that Blastoise has, so he wins. He's got to win, sorry.
So you had a specific topic in mind for us to discuss this episode, and when you first approached me with this topic, in real time, as you were speaking the sentence, you said, I think it would be cool to do an episode about gender, and I'm thinking, Avion, fair enough, and we'll have this discussion about the politics and whatever, and I'm like, yeah, I'm down, and then you're on Silph Radio, and that instantly just, I was already into the idea, but wow, what a cool idea, I am totally down for that. Never even occurred to me or thought about doing this type of episode for Silph Radio, and there's so much here. Even in the research for it, I found so much more than I thought I would. There's just so many cool opportunities here. So,
I was rewatching the cartoon, and I really loved the gender bending that was going on with Team Rocket. that also, gender also is a very important thing to me. I am gender queer, and so that's something I focus on a lot. And when I'm watching cartoons, I'm plagued with this thing where I always think about gender politics, or like, what are these gender portrayals, and are they positive and negative? Like, I need to label all these things. So,
well, there's so much, purposeful and accidental coding in cartoons for things like that.
So yeah, I really like, so James is really gender bendy in, well, obviously masculinity becoming feminine. Like M to F seems to be more controversial in my experience. When I hear about like trans violence, it's often trans women.
Men are very insecure about like masculinity and not being their masculinity not being challenged. So that's why, Yeah.
And so James was the most, I think, flamboyant, and then Jessie is a lot more low-key, but she does gender bend, and that's something I came to view after I started seeing James, and I was like, oh my god, James is so gender bendy, what is this portrayal? And then I was like, oh, Jessie.
Yeah, we touched upon this a little bit a few weeks ago, actually, on the show. James has always been my favorite character on the show. Like, he just has so much personality where a lot of the characters are just boards of wood. And,
yes.
Jessie as well, they both, when they dress up, too, because they're always disguising themselves.
Scheming.
And James is always playing the woman, Jessie's always playing the man. It is very interesting, and I definitely think intentional. Mm-hmm. We came to the conclusion that we think they're a gay swinger couple. Like, they're both
awesome.
gay, but they're together. They got a cat.
Yes, yeah, right. You got a cat. Well, and I think also with James too, his portrayal is not just in his outfits. Outfits are the most blatant example of this, but with him, he also is a very effeminate person in every way, shape, or form. I feel like every time he's portrayed in feminine roles, except for the fact that he's supposed to be a dude. And I think also the colors of him are mostly blue, and I don't remember him ever being in like pink things, because they
hair
really
is like
use those colors.
is a purplish blue.
Yeah, well, I think so that's why I think, and Jessie's hair is the magenta.
Yeah,
so you have to be like, yes, boy, girl. And they use those colors all the time. I feel like they definitely use that for, a lot of the creatures, their portrayals of the Pokemon themselves. And I think Nidorina and Nidorino are like pink and blue.
The female Nidoran is blue, and the male one is purplish, pinkish.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, back in the day, pink used to be the masculine color and blue was the feminine color back in like medieval times and whatnot.
There you go.
Because red is like a hotter color and blue is a cooler, calmer color. Mm-hmm. That was the natural association back then, and it eventually just got switched. It had a lot to do with like marketing toys and baby clothes and stuff because it made sense to color code it.
Yes. Well, it's just definitely an American thing. I feel like I work with refugees, and refugees often don't use gender-appropriate clothes according to American standards, and that's something I chuckle about a lot. And purple is a big color that's huge, I believe, in the Nepali community and the Burmese community, Karen community. But they use a lot of purple because it's like royalty, but that's a common thing in like Old English times a lot, is like royaled purple.
It is something that fascinates me, color and just the associations. We're getting way off topic, but it's so fascinating. Even blind people, if you shine blue light in their eyes, become calmer. Like, even if they can't see, their eyes do not work and they can't see the blue light, it still makes them calmer. Like, there's so many, like, fascinating. Like, it really is. And the color schemes of Pokemon actually is interesting. It is a little sad that half the Pokemon that are female exclusive are pink.
Right.
But do you know Sylveon is the new fairy type Eevee evolution?
I've not seen that. But
you haven't seen Sylveon. Let me bring up a picture of Sylveon so I can show you. Fairy type is a new type they introduced in the last generation. It's the first time they introduced a new type since Gold and Silver. This is what Sylveon looks like. That's Eevee. That's the fairy type evolution of Eevee.
Yeah, cool.
Do you notice anything about its color scheme?
It's blue and pink and purple.
And beige. It's like this pastel. That's the trans flag.
Yes, it is. Oh, cool.
That's interesting. That may be intentional. That may not be. It is like 84%, like its gender ratio. It's like 84% male and only like 20-something percent, 16, whatever it is, percent female. And it has a very feminine look to it. So it's also called the intertwining Pokemon is like its species name. So it may be, I'm leaning honestly towards coincidence, but meaningful coincidence, maybe,
Mm-hmm. So do all Pokemon have a percentage gender?
Yes, a gender ratio. In the games. It used to be gender wasn't a thing in the games in the first generation. There was the only gender Pokemon was Nidoran, and it was two totally separate Pokemon with their own evolutionary lines. Then in the second generation, they introduced Pokemon having their own genders, and then in the third generation, they introduced. Or no, it was still second generation, Crystal. The third game of the second generation, Gold, Silver, and Crystal, they introduced the ability to create a female character. But Pokemon, like the starters are all like 84% likelihood of a male as well. It's like really hard to get a female. They might even be more than that. And a lot of them are like that. A lot of them are just male or just female. And just a weird amount, like some of them make sense. Combee, it's like a bee Pokemon, and the females are really rare, and only the females can evolve to Vespiquen. And that's cool, because it's, bees. But then some of them, it's weird, and this actually has allowed for some really weird things. Meryl's, Meryl, the little blue, round, like, we used to call it Pika Blue. I don't know if that means anything to you, but before we knew what its name was, it's a little, like, water type mouse. Meryl's, when they're evolving, it's this peculiar, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but they can change gender when they evolve, because the baby one has a 75% chance being female and the adult one has a 50% chance being female. So there's like a 1 in 3 chance that a female baby Azurill will evolve to a male Meryl. So that's just this peculiar, it's not a glitch because it's just a natural progression of the programming, but it might be something they didn't catch, or maybe they intended it, because some water creatures do change gender.
Does it seem like most of the time it's 84% male is what you're saying? No, like Pokemon in general. So I guess what I'm getting at here.
Different species have their own specific.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, because you said it, maybe they change it so you can get more likely male because they like males better. And are they leaning towards male? Is there a lot of like male preference in this in Pokemon in general?
I know when I was growing up, like, for example, my sister, I would, like, ask my little sister questions about Pokemon, or be like, oh, what about this? And she'd just be like, I don't like Pokemon. Pokemon's for boys. And I'm a girl, so I like things that are for girls. And
well, I like things that are for boys. So
but still, that always bothered me, because, A, there's so much stuff in Pokemon that could be like, look at this, that looks like it's directed towards girls. Like, they're so adorable. Like, they're equally adorable and badass. Like, to me, it's a very unisex thing, like, I think, and that always would bother me too, because it's like, no, be into what you're fucking into. Like,
yeah,
Pokemon's cool.
Yeah, Pokemon's cool. We can all like it, for girls and boys.
But nowadays I see all sorts of, like, Pokemon seems more popular with girls, like, at least with the younger, like, with teenagers and stuff.
Do you see the generation nowadays are still into Pokemon?
Oh my god, it never went away. Yeah, everybody's growing up with Pokemon now. Okay. It's awesome. I love it.
That's the sad part also, is that past my childhood I didn't keep up with it, didn't continue to buy the games because I didn't get a DS. I didn't get into that. That's just not part of my story.
I stopped for a couple of years, like maybe the last 2 years of high school. I was too old for it. And then I graduated and I was like, you know what? I specifically remember I had gotten out of a 2-year relationship and I took it really, really hard. And I picked up my old Game Boy, my old ass big fat Game Boy with the original red version, and started playing again for the first time in years. And it was so addictive, it pulled me right back in. Just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in.
Right. Yeah. There's a reminiscent thing for me. And that's where that came from, with the Netflix and the la la la.
Yeah, another thing I really like, though, I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but Pokemon seems to have, I mean, even though, yes, you did start playing as you can only choose a male character, and the starters have such a preference towards being male, with regards to at least human characters, it's very gender unbiased. Like, the way I see it, like, there's so many, like, different female characters. Like, at least half the characters are female, and so varied. Like, they're not just fit to certain stereotypes and cliche roles, and so many champions or Elite Four members or powerful gym leaders are female. There doesn't seem to be mind paid to, like, I don't know.
Well, I'm gonna have to disagree with you.
Really?
I'm sorry.
You should be. You should be sorry. Come on
I'm
my
not.
show and disagree with me.
Well, it's because
This is an intellectual crime.
ultimately,
I'm always right.
ultimately, the hero and the anti-hero, or hero and the villain, are both men. So the ultimate people are you're always playing in the perspective of a man, and they're all supporting roles. Yes, they're all gym leaders, but they're not.
They were, but they're not anymore. The main character is either male or female.
Excuse me.
But-
In the old days.
Okay, yeah. No, I'm just...
Yeah. So that's what I feel like. That yes, they have progressed as people have progressed, and I feel like women's rights has progressed, and people have become, when they're making new versions of things, they always become more cognizant of gender, and I think it's come a long way.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
in the
And
beginning,
the first game, it is the main character and the rival are boys.
And Professor
so is the
Oak is a
professor.
man,
But
you know.
there's also
There's
Erica, Sabrina, Lorelei. Who else is there? Misty.
And those are all
you know.
brief gym leaders, I feel like.
Well,
you
how
know?
many characters are there though?
But still, the main characters are men.
2 of the Elite 4 are female. Like the.
That's equal.
I'm not
still-
shooting you down.
yeah.
I'm just saying it. I don't think it's overwhelmingly. You know what I mean? Like I think.
I guess it's so with every represented group, I notice that when people are talking about it, they're like, yeah, we've come a long way, or no, it's not unequal. And they're referencing all these people, and people put like people of color, they put, they put underserved groups in things to make that point, but still the ultimate villain and hero are
there
men.
weren't any black characters in Pokemon until just a few years ago, too. So.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I still stand firm in the idea that I think that it's still ultimately 2 guys in the beginning. So they've come a long way.
Well, it's not still though. It was.
But they've come a long way.
But,
That's cool. So that's revolutionary. I didn't actually know that until you said it right now. Not right now, a little earlier. And you were like, yeah, in this, which generation did they change it so you have 2 women?
Well, each generation, usually there's 3 games. There's the first 2, like red and blue,
Right.
and then there's yellow. And then
Right.
the second gen was gold and silver, and then there was crystal, and it was crystal that they started doing that.
Okay.
And we're all the way up to like gen 6 now. So
Yeah.
it's always now been male or female main character. It's interchangeable. And there's usually 3 characters that leave the town now. So you have 2 friends. And one of them, you each get a Pokemon, and then there's another like rival character, and they're definitely stepping it up. But I don't know. I think our main point of disagreement is I place a lot more emphasis on the gym leaders and there's so many. I think a few champions, more than one, like the league champion, the ultimate end boss, was female. Like in Sinnoh, Cynthia is the main champion. She's a dragon type trainer, and she's the most badass character in the game, and she appears in another generation in like just an NPC role, like she shows up for a certain event, like which they don't do a lot of that characters carrying over. So they're definitely better than some. You know what I mean?
I agree,
series.
and I think it's cool. They do have a lot of positive, strong female role models in this, and they also, you see so much of the binary rather than just one or the other, and I think that's positive. Gender equality, they have both. Jesse and James and everybody else.
There's actually most likely a transgender character, an NPC that you fight in X and Y. It's really interesting. The American translation toned it down, as we often do from Japanese stuff. You fight I don't know if you remember, one of the trainer classes was Beauty, and it was like a woman that was all glamorous.
Yeah.
And you fight a Beauty, and they say, oh, just 6 months ago, I was a black belt or something, and look at me now. And in the Japanese version, they say, like, just 6 months ago, I was a karate king, and look at me now. The wonders of medical science are amazing. It's very obvious, like, what they're saying there. And that's really interesting. And that's not the first time. I don't know if you knew, do you know Birdo from the Super Mario Brothers series?
No.
The pink dinosaur that shoots eggs out of its mouth?
Yes.
Yeah, it's got like a bow. You
Yes.
always see it with Yoshi and like Mario Tennis and stuff. You do
Yes.
know?
Yes.
That's in Japanese, that's a male character. In America, they just changed it to a female character. But in Japan, it even said in the instruction booklet for Super Mario Brothers 2 that he was confused about his gender identity. And he wears the bow and like It's pretty interesting, yeah, and they've always gone on with that. Another thing for Sylveon, it has bows, which might be a Japanese identifier. I don't know.
Yeah, so I definitely appreciate that they have they have a lot of gender equality stuff, positive female role models. And Misty, I think the way that they portray Misty a lot, and she's sometimes portrayed as the bitchy girl that runs around and kind of freaks out and has the big eyes and is like, Ash, why are you doing that?
Head gets all big.
Right, with a big giant face. But she definitely is there for him, and Ash has a male and a female companion. So although Ash is male, and it ends up when you're looking at all three of them, it's 2 males and a female. But you have your main character, and you have a male and a female supporting character. So you have both.
I think right now, too, he has one... I may be wrong. I don't watch the show anymore. But I think there's a supporting character that is supposed to be more important, have more of a role. Their Pokemon have more of a role than Brock or Misty did, and who always just played second fiddle to Ash, That's a girl and a black girl. So, yeah, that's really cool. I don't remember her name. And I think she's one of the gym leaders. Maybe it was the last generation. Yeah, she was definitely one of the gym leaders in the game. So you said you started with Blue, so then you would have had to play a male character. I was going to ask if you played, what type of character you usually create. Did you play any games where you could choose?
No, unfortunately. I mean, not unfortunately. I enjoyed being me being gender bending, I enjoyed being a male character. But for me as a child and my expression of being gender queer, I feel like a lot of the times I go lean towards male stuff because it's bending, not just because it's male. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I like being gender bending more than I like being male necessarily. But so in the place where you write in your name, they have these symbols at the end, and you have the ability to put some symbols, and they have a male and female symbol.
They do, yeah.
So I would always put both of them at the end, and I think that was really fun that they had the ability to let you choose that. So even if you were a dude, you could put, even though you are a dude, you can put a female symbol on if you wanted to be a female dude, or even you can use it as an indicator. They had that even in the early games, which was fun.
I have heard a few people complain that that they don't offer a transgender option, which I think is a little bit come on. If you want to identify as one or the other, then just pick the one you want to identify as.
Right. And, yeah. I think that's been an argument a lot is, there's that fight against the gender binary. So the idea that there has to be one.
And I agree. I mean, that has a lot to do, I think, with just gender roles and how much importance has been placed on them in society for hundreds of years. Yes. And once we get past that, it won't be as big a deal.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we're going to get past, it's something to be gotten past. But I think gender is something to be explored by each individual. Gender is such an important thing. I think our stringent standards that we have on gender should fade away, and I hope that fades away, because gender should be expressed and it should be understood and it should be explored, but it shouldn't have to do with your sex. Gender is different from sex. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really important that we explore gender despite our sex. Or in spite of it, I don't know. Maybe both.
And by that, the distinction you mean is that sex being biological and gender
Correct.
Being more of a kind of
social
social construct.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. Gender is completely socially constructed.
Identity type thing.
Yes. But it's just the expression of. So sex is always, again, as you said, biological. So the expression of being biologically that can also, male or female, can also add to that, but it also doesn't have to be. It's just kind of the idea of masculinity and femininity. Mm-hmm. So I like to use those terms to really describe gender: masculinity versus femininity, whereas gender is male and female. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my way of explaining the difference between the two.
Yeah, and I mean, gender roles are mostly bullshit. They're not entirely bullshit. We are animals. We are biological creatures, and in the natural world, sometimes males and females take on different roles. So it's not that they come from an entirely irrational place, but we don't exist in that type of an environment right now, and we're not, I don't know,
it isn't necessary for our survival.
Yeah.
It isn't an evolutionary tool.
Even if we didn't have this environment that we've built around ourselves, this culture and society, we get by on our intellect and our tool using and making ability, and that's not
what makes us human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas other animals get by on their personal attributes, So I don't know. I'm kind of going all over the place right now. But in the sense of like, I don't know, we've built it up in this to this irrational level, and it's like this entirely expected thing, and of course there's a backlash against that. Like,
well, media, I feel like media and accessibility and like stereotypes have become so strong and relevant to our social society that gender norms had to be created, and they just kind of like were a natural way of things. And so now we got to fight against this annoying media monster we've made, you know?
But it's so much easier now with the internet and everybody having
Yes.
the ability to express.
Yes. I think it's awesome. I can open up my Facebook page and just, it has evolved in the way that it's all this positive gender stuff and positive sexuality stuff and positive whatever stuff I like, whatever social justice thing I'm fighting for recently. It's a free form of media, and so a lot of ideas have come about, and especially like ideas of gender equality and it's a free form of media, so a lot of previously underrepresented groups are being represented now. And so on my Facebook feed, I get to see a lot of positive gender portrayals and strong gender, queer, gender different, or I don't know, non-heteronormative idols for me.
Because the truth is, the majority of people are cool with it and think it's bullshit to discriminate. And now that the internet is giving a voice to pretty much everybody, that is becoming clear. And so it's like now you're in the minority if you want to be a dick. And so hopefully you'll keep your mouth shut because you don't want to get persecuted and called out for being a dick.
Yeah, but you also, I think that Facebook is such a personal thing. Like I'm the only person that really has my Facebook experience. So I think that also they put like-minded people on each other's social network, and so they made it so that like-minded people were like, yeah, there's other people like me because they keep popping up on my Facebook feed,
yeah, the people you associate with, but still,
and like the types of advertisements that you like.
But you're also friends on Facebook with so many people that you don't just like associate with that closely, or you're not that similar to. Maybe they're an associate from work or from family or an acquaintance, you know.
But when they do that, I don't think that they
but I mean, when people make a post, that has an actual effect because everyone in your social network sees it, and they're
no,
like,
they don't.
oh, well, not everyone, but you know what I mean. It's seen, and it's like, oh, people do think that way. Like, that's not a weird thing to think. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but what I've noticed is every time you like something, they take that into account, and so they keep showing that one person, and so that same person. So the people that have stuff that I don't like, that I've never liked, stop showing up on my feed.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I've been on Facebook way too long, and so now it only shows me the things I like.
But I just mean, in general, people expressing things on social media, it gets seen by other people you know, and it becomes apparent that, you know, I don't know, it inserts these ideas into the cultural zeitgeist, whether or not the people in power who have all the money have these ideas, because now other people are able to, you don't need a deal to get on TV and say it. You can put it out there for everyone to see, you know, on your cell phone or at the library, and that's making a big difference, or on your podcast.
Yes, and then you can talk about gender and Pokemon.
Or Gotham City, whatever. So if you did play one of the newer games, would you continue then playing as a male character, or would you change? I go back and forth. I don't. That's funny too.
I do all of them.
When we're younger and everything, you do kind of feel like you have to like hide that. Like, my friends are gonna make fun of me for making a girl character, but like some of my best Pokemon came from like my Fire Red version. I played Holly, and Soul Silver, I was Lizzie. Like, sometimes I played Shaggy, I played Nathan. I've played, you know, I create a different character for every game I play. So
yeah, and I think I ended up also buying into that and making it a male character. And also for me, the fun of it was to pretend that I was male. And me, there I go again, gender bending. So I think that part of my gender queerness and gender expression is that I like to do all of them. and I like to be gender neutral, or I like to be everything. So I think that really, to answer your question, I would do both as equal as I could. Like you were saying, you know, I want to do all of them and see what it feels like to be each one. And
right, it's like, Professor Oak, to be honest, you're being a little rude. Excuse me, are you a boy or a girl? Like, I'm sorry, Professor Oak, you don't ask people that.
right?
Like,
what are you?
yeah, real progressive game freak. I kid. What's my grandson's name? He's just playing it off at that point. He's like, no, really, I'm not. I'm just crazy and senile. Don't be mad at me.
Poor old come sit on Grandpa's lap.
God damn it, Professor Oak. It's a little disappointing to me. There's some Pokemon that are only male and some that are only female. Some of them make sense, and some of them are a little disappointing. Like, Jinx are only female. That makes kind of sense. You know,
they have a skirt, and they must be a girl.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, it's clearly based on, I don't know, being a woman. Oddly enough, Mr. Mime, though, it can be male or female.
Well, I think Jinx's voice, have you heard Jinx? Jinx, like, it's very weird and masculine. I feel like Jinx is a kind of a fucking drag queen.
There is an element of, there's a lot of uncomfortable things with Jinx that have to do with race, too. But there's also a lot of pretty easy explanations for why that might not be the case too. It's a really weird gray area.
Does Jinx remind me again? Does Jinx have white or blonde hair?
Blonde.
Okay, so then there's a lot of weird race mixing there.
Yeah. This author came out saying that she was criticizing a lot of like Japanese cultural depictions of black people, and Jinx was one of the ones she cited. She was like, that's pretty much just a blackface drag queen. And the thing is, though, there's also some relations to like this Japanese style ganguro, which the girls get these horrible Jersey Shore tans and wear like blonde hair. It's a rebellion against Japanese social constructs of beauty, pale skin, dark hair, and there's also like mythological precedences in like Japanese mythology or Norse mythology. It's interesting.
Well, I think if the Jinx character, the point was to be a mixed race thing or to play both racial markers, the blonde and the dark skin. Imagine if they were going to do it backwards. If you were going to do like black hair and white skin, how would you portray that in a character like that? Like, I think that the type of animation doesn't allow to distinguish that if you just made it black hair or brown hair. And then, so that's the only, I feel like, the more obvious way of doing race mixing. It's still weird.
Very blackfacey.
Blackfacey, definitely blackfacey.
There's a reason they don't really put Jinx in a lot of stuff. I kind of respect that they didn't just disown Jinx and wipe it out, and it's not even a Pokemon. It is still a Pokemon. You can still use it in the games, but they don't really place any emphasis on it anymore, and I kind of respect that.
It definitely, though, in the Pokemon Snap game, I feel like there's Jinx is prominently portrayed in that one. Because did they open up the Molt? No, it wasn't a Moltres. What creature was that?
I don't remember. I do remember seeing them. They're very dancey in it, right?
It's yeah, so their backs are to you, and you have to hit them with Pokeballs. Like, there's a trick where you had to play with the Jinx, and you had to hit them with the Pokeballs so they turned around, and then you had to snap a picture of their face. Okay. Otherwise, you can't snap a picture of their face, because that was the point of the whole game. It's to snap good pictures of Pokemon.
Yeah.
I love that game. Pokemon Snap, the long forgotten.
It's kind of a shitty game, but it has a special place in all of our hearts.
Right. Well, it's like one of the only games that I actually won and finished, because I'm just a really classic ADHD kid where like I could like get really into something for a while, and then I would not be able to get into it that much longer.
Well, it was one Richard Attenborough short of being a National Geographic special on Pokemon, so that's really cool, you know?
I know, right? So yeah, the Jinx, then you had to turn it around and snap a picture of it so you would get it. Then I think in the middle of it was this giant egg, and I think it was the blue... what's the name for
Articuno?
Yes.
The bird?
bird
The
Pokemon.
ice bird?
Yeah,
it would
the
make
ice
sense
bird.
because Jinx are
Yes.
ice type.
Yes, the ice bird, and that's where you find the ice bird because they have all of them in there. They have the Moltres in there too, or at least they just had those two. I don't remember. The faded
Did
memory.
they have Zapdos?
Zapdos?
Zapdos
No. Yes,
is the
they do have
electric one.
Zapdos.
Moltres is
They
the
do
fire.
when you. So you had to hit the Pikachu with a Pokeball and piss him off so that he zapped this machine and made Zapdos a hatch from the egg. And so then you could snap a picture of the Zapdos and be super National Geographic.
Yeah. It was cool seeing Pokemon in 3D for one of the first times in their natural environment, going to Blockbuster and printing out your pictures at the Snap Station or whatever it was called. Do you remember those?
I don't remember those. I don't think I want. My mother would never let me do that.
No,
She didn't support my use of video games. It wasn't feminine enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Video games are for boys. I don't play video games.
Well, the only games that I got that weren't ones that I actually chose were like Winnie the Pooh, Honey Hunt. Oh, no, wait, did I pick that one? No. But Winnie the Pooh or like, Pokemon Snap and like all these very interesting ones that were the games that weren't hyper masculine. And mostly the ones that like weren't fighting games. So that was how my mom kind of saw the threat of video games as it being a boy's toy.
Fighting games and bloody games, shooting games. And God, back in the day too, though, there were so many games that weren't like that. And nowadays I feel like it's all just fucking muscles and bullets and blood. And it's just so repetitive. I miss the days. That's why I love Nintendo. Like stuff like Pokemon and Mario and other and Final Fantasy's not Nintendo, but like Final Fantasy, like so much more things that's like, this is what's cool about the video games. It's this
the two
fantastical
video games that,
story.
Yeah. The two video games that I really played, not video games, excuse me, systems that I played was N64 and the Wii, original Wii.
Okay.
And so those had a lot of non-threatening games, I think, and non-shoot 'em up games. And for me, like the big ones were like Yoshi's Story, all the Mario Kart, Smash Brothers. Though it was a fighting game, and so then I got into the fighting games too. But there weren't like, I really loved 007, GoldenEye. Of course, it's a classic. So all the classics N64 games, Mario Kart, and those were the ones that I just attained them.
Great fucking generation of, and that was so, when the N64 came out, that was such a next level thing. Like that, before I ever had a PlayStation or anything, that was just like, wow, like playing Mario 64, like just look at this is amazing. Like,
yes.
God.
And then they had like fun things like I got to play Pokemon Stadium, and I really like Pokemon Snap.
Oh man,
because I played it like a million times. I remember playing that over and over and blowing on the cartridge and resetting, flipping that thing because it wasn't working, getting pissed.
Pokemon Stadium. Me and John Cobb skipped school the day that Pokemon Stadium came out to go to his house and play it.
Yeah,
and we're upstairs playing it, and his mom came home on like lunch break. We don't know if it was his mom or his dad, and we just turned it off. He didn't have like a door on his bedroom like upstairs, so we were just sitting there like, fuck, like perfectly still with the game on pause, like, please don't come upstairs, please don't come upstairs. And they were moving around downstairs. They never came upstairs. They like for like a half hour we just sat there perfectly still,
not breathing.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So there's also, as far as gender exclusive Pokemon, Miltank, the cow, is only female, and Tauros, the bull, of course, is only male. That makes sense.
Yes. Okay.
Kangaskhan is only female, which kind of makes sense. It's got the pouch. It's the mother Pokemon. It's got a baby. But it would make sense if they made a male Kangaskhan that just didn't have the pouch or the baby.
Right, or make it fun because like daddy seahorses, they carry the babies around. What if they made like a king? Like,
does Kingdra? Yeah, does the male Kingdra give birth?
I don't know.
Seadra, Horsey.
Right. That would be cool. But I think it would also be fun to, actually, in true Pokemon fashion, to gender bend the Kanga. Is that what?
Kangaskhan?
Kangaskhan.
Do you remember Kangaskhan?
Yes,
right?
it had a little kid in it. I do remember that. But it would be fun for the male to also carry the baby.
Oh, okay.
And I think that would be kind of
it's a fantasy
Pokemon
world.
to
That's
it.
one of the farthest reaches in the series is not whether or not a male Pokemon can have a pouch with a baby.
Right.
Like, you got mouses that can like electrocute a man. Yeah.
Right.
Mice.
Mises.
And then there's one thing that's kind of disappointing. Like all Chanseys are female. And I'm like, oh, there's no male Chanseys. Like, why?
Because they're nurses and they have the little
There's
eggs.
no male nurses.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the times that I think they played into gender stereotypes.
So
And
how do you feel about Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny?
I think Officer Jenny's super hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nurse Joy was also cute. But,
they're kind of
sexualized.
strong female roles, though. I mean, Brock is always hitting on them, so I guess it is always being pointed out. But at the same time, they never acknowledge or reciprocate his advances, and they're both like powerful, like strong, like career-driven. Like they affect plots. Officer Jenny's always doing badass shit.
Oh yeah, all I imagine her right now is like riding on her motorcycle and being like, "Stop, bad guy! Let me save the world." And so I definitely agree. Those characters are really great, and I think it's also another time when they kind of win for Pokemon because they were like, yeah, look at this. Beautiful women can be strong. And they're also going to, don't forget about the sexualization of these women. That even though they're strong characters, they're going to be sexualized and guys are going to drool all over them. They're going to have to be like, nope. I think it's cool. They just kind of also ignore it. And it brings attention to that struggle to be a gorgeous woman thing. And the sexualization of women. So it speaks to that. They do that a lot. And, Misty, even though she's like that bitch character, she has those teeny tiny shorts. And I think a lot of the women are very much sexualized.
Yeah, and she's like 12 years old. That's a little
weird.
Japan is different. Like they have so much pop culture. It's not a defense. It's just an observation. Like so much pop culture that fetishizes like young girls. And
I think it's not uncommon in many different cultures.
I mean, it's also just, I guess, demonstrative that people are just inherently uncomfortable with so much things that have to do with sex. Like, I don't know. There's not always a comfortable answer for stuff like that. Back to the gender exclusive Pokemon. Also, all the like fighting type like Chans, like Tyrogue, Hitmonchan, Hitmonlee, those are all male exclusive Pokemon.
Really?
Yeah, that's a little
sucky.
disappointing too. I could see like a female Hitmonchan. Like, come on, Hitmonchan wears a skirt.
Yeah. He's just one step away from it being a drag queen. What about Hitmonlee?
Right? Then there's some that are unnecessary, like the Braviary is, you might not be familiar, but it's a new like eagle, like American eagle Pokemon. It doesn't, I guess that makes sense then. America's pretty masculine.
Right.
As an entity.
A bald eagle, I mean, do both the male and female bald eagles look the same?
It's just
In real
male
life?
only, but the Pokedex makes reference. It's totally making, its color scheme is red, white, and blue. It's a bald eagle, and its Pokedex entry says something about it being aggressive. And like,
Oh my god.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I like it. The same thing with, there's another one that's like a lobster or something, and it's red, white, and blue, and they start saying things about how it's aggressive and it goes messing with other Pokemon or something. It's pretty funny.
Sticking
Subtle.
its claws in other Pokemon's business that I have nothing to do with, just for their oil.
So I don't know how much more there is to say. I'm sure there's so much more there is to say on the topic, but I think we did a good job. We covered 90% of what there is to possibly say about the topic. We're that good.
Basically.
Hey, if you enjoyed the episode, please, I don't know if you're listening, if you found this on YouTube. If you did, please like the video, subscribe. If you found it on iTunes, give us a rating. All that shit helps immensely. You can find us on Facebook, Silph Radio Podcast. You can also find our other podcast, Fairpoint Podcast. Wherever you found this one, I guarantee it's there. You're sure to enjoy it. Lydia, thank you so much for coming and giving us such a fucking awesome topic for an episode. Great discussion.
Thanks for having me. It was really fun. My first time. I feel like you popped my cherry and I appreciate it. That's fucking teamwork.
You have so much to bring to podcasts, though. Like, there's so much to say. I hope we get another chance to do this soon in the near future.
Good idea.
And to everybody listening, I hope that we get another chance to do this again in the near future, too. There should be another episode out next week. If not, feel free to go check out Fairpoint Podcast and Fair Enough Podcast. There's sure to be one of those, if not both, coming out as well. As always, thank you for listening. Please enjoy your week. From the Secret Room, I'm Nathan K.
I'm Lydia A.
talk to you guys next time.